The algorithms humming through Nexus Solutions servers were Sophia Loren's children. Each line of code, each predictive model, each revolutionary data structure, they all carried her fingerprints. Yet when Forbes photographed the visionary CEO, Adrian Kane, in his corner office, Sophia wasn't in the frame. She stood in the doorway of their Nob Hill apartment, watching her husband practice his TED Talk in the mirror. At 32, Sophia still looked like the MIT graduate student Adrian had married 7 years ago, dark hair pulled back, minimal makeup, comfortable in jeans and a cashmere sweater. The future of AI isn't just artificial intelligence, Adrian rehearsed, gesturing dramatically. It's augmented intuition. It's what we've built at Nexus. What I've built, Sophia thought, but didn't say. She'd learned silence was easier than fighting for credit. "Dinner's ready," she said softly. Adrian barely glanced at her. "Can't. Meeting Celeste to prep for the investor pitch." Celeste Winters. The name that had slowly poisoned their marriage. She was Nexus's strategic communications director, all platinum hair, designer suits, and manufactured charm. She'd inserted herself into every meeting, every photo op, every moment that should have been Sophia's. "Adrian, that pitch uses my quantum encryption model. Maybe I should, Sophia." He finally looked at her, and his eyes held that familiar mixture of impatience and pity. "You're brilliant with the technical stuff. But investors want vision, charisma. They want someone who can sell the dream, not explain the code." The words landed like small cuts. Once, he'd called her brilliance intoxicating. Once, he'd traced the curve of her neck while she explained neural networks, saying her mind was the sexiest thing about her. When had that changed? After he left, Sophia sat at her hidden workstation, a setup in their spare bedroom that Adrian never entered. She pulled up the company server logs and began tracing financial transfers. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number with a photo attachment. Adrian and Celeste at Boulevard Restaurant, her hand on his thigh, laughing intimately. Below it, a caption: "Sorry you had to see this. Thought you should know." A friend. Sophia stared at the image, waiting for tears that didn't come. Instead, a cold clarity settled over her. She opened her secure files and began compiling evidence. Every strategy she developed, every innovation Adrian had claimed, every financial irregularity she'd noticed. Then she found it, the Gala invitation on Adrian's desk, premier charity gala for tech innovation. Host, Adrian Kane. Guest, Celeste Kane, not Celeste Winters. Celeste Kane. He was going to introduce his mistress as his wife at San Francisco's most elite event, in front of investors, press, and the entire tech community. Sophia's hands trembled as she picked up her phone and dialed a number she hadn't called in 2 years. Margaret Chen speaking. "Margaret, it's Sophia Loren. I need your help." Margaret Chen, legendary venture capitalist, Sophia's mentor from her Stanford days, and the first investor who'd believed in Nexus back when it was just an idea. "Sophia. I was wondering when you'd finally call. What took you so long? I kept hoping things would get better. And now?" Sophia looked at the invitation, at the photo of her husband with another woman, at 7 years of being erased. "Now I'm ready to stop being invisible." Margaret's laugh was sharp and satisfied. "Good. Because I've been waiting to watch you remind everyone who actually built that company." "The gala is in 3 days?" "Yes." "Perfect. I'll make some calls." "Sophia, one question, are you sure? Once we do this, there's no going back." Sophia thought about Adrian's dismissive eyes, Celeste's triumphant smile, all the times she'd made herself smaller to make him feel bigger. "I'm sure." "Then let's show San Francisco what happens when you underestimate a genius." After the call, Sophia returned to the bedroom. Adrian came home late, smelling of Celeste's perfume. He undressed silently, sliding into bed beside her. In the darkness, his hand found hers, a ghost of old intimacy. "Sophia?" His voice was soft, vulnerable. "Do you ever think about how we used to be? She did. She remembered him holding her after her mother's funeral, promising he'd never leave. She remembered their wedding night in that tiny apartment, making love surrounded by computer equipment and dreams. Sometimes, she whispered that he pulled her close, and for a moment, she let herself believe the man she'd loved was still there. They moved together with familiar rhythm, and in the aftermath, he held her like he meant it. "I love you," he murmured, already half asleep, but when morning came, he was cold again, checking his phone, getting ready to meet Celeste. The moment of tenderness had been just that, a moment. An echo of something dead. Sophia got dressed, went to her hidden workstation, and continued building her case. 3 days until the gala. 3 days until she stopped being a shadow. Celeste Winters had perfected the art of the takeover. She didn't just steal Adrian, she systematically erased Sophia from Nexus Solutions' narrative, board meetings that Sophia had attended for 7 years. Suddenly, executives only. Company photos on the website? Cropped to remove her. The Innovation Awards Sophia had won under Nexus's name? Reattributed to the leadership team, with Celeste and Adrian prominently featured. "It's about brand cohesion," Adrian explained when Sophia questioned it. "Celeste understands optics." What Celeste understood was replacement. She appeared at Adrian's side at every industry conference, tech summit, and investor dinner. She wore power suits in jewel tones, spoke in rehearsed soundbites, and touched Adrian's arm with casual ownership. The morning of the quarterly board meeting, Sophia discovered something that made her blood run cold. Her grandmother's ruby necklace, a priceless heirloom kept in their home safe, was gone. That afternoon, she watched from the observation room as the board convened. Adrian presented her quantum encryption merger strategy, the one she'd spent 6 months developing. He didn't mention her once, and sitting beside him, wearing the stolen rubies around her neck, was Celeste. "The acquisition of CipherCore gives us unprecedented market position," Adrian said confidently. "The integration of their hardware with our proprietary algorithms creates an unbreakable security ecosystem." Board member James Rothstein leaned forward. "Adrian, the technical specifics are impressive. Who led the encryption analysis?" "My team and I worked closely on every aspect," Adrian replied smoothly. Celeste's strategic insights were particularly valuable. Celeste smiled, the rubies catching the light. "We make a great team." Sophia's hands clenched. That encryption model had taken her 3 years to perfect. She'd presented early versions to Adrian in bed, sketching algorithms on napkins while he pretended to understand. After the meeting, Sophia followed the digital trail. Adrian's expenditures over the past year told a damning story: a luxury condo lease in Pacific Heights, designer shopping sprees at Neiman Marcus, a business account for Winters Consulting LLC, Celeste's shell company, funded entirely with money from Sophia's trust fund that he'd been embezzling from her to finance his affair. That evening, the final insult arrived, an embossed invitation to the premier gala. Adrian Kane, CEO of Nexus Solutions. Guest, Celeste Kane. Table for 10. Not guest, Celeste Winters. Guest, Celeste Kane. Sophia called Margaret Chen. "He's listing her as his wife. Publicly." "Good," Margaret said. "Makes the fraud more obvious. How's your documentation?" "Complete. Financial records, stolen intellectual property, everything." "And the board?" "Rothstein and Chen are already suspicious. Williams will follow evidence." "The others?" Sophia paused. "They'll need proof. Then we'll give them proof. I've arranged for you to be the keynote speaker at the gala." The original speaker had to cancel. Sophia's pulse quickened. "Margaret, trust me. I've spent 40 years in this business. I know how to stage a coup. You just focus on your presentation. Make it devastating." Over the next 2 days, Sophia prepared. She compiled slides showing side-by-side comparisons, her original strategy documents and Adrian's presentations. Financial statements proving embezzlement. Server logs showing she'd written 87% of Nexus's core code. The night before the gala, Adrian came home late. He didn't notice Sophia working at the dining table, surrounded by papers. "Big day tomorrow," he said, loosening his tie. "Yes," Sophia replied quietly. "It is." He studied her, really looked at her for the first time in months. "You okay? You seem different." "Just tired." He nodded, already dismissing her concern. "Get some rest. I've got an early breakfast with Celeste to finalize details." After he left for the guest bedroom where he now slept, Sophia allowed herself a cold smile. Tomorrow, Adrian Kane would introduce his mistress as his wife, and tomorrow, the real Mrs. Kane would take the stage. The Fairmont Hotel's grand ballroom glittered like a jewelry box. San Francisco's tech elite filled tables around ice sculptures and champagne fountains, trading deals worth billions over canapes. Adrian Kane arrived with Celeste on his arm, and camera flashes exploded. She wore crimson silk that clung to every curve, with Sophia's grandmother's rubies blazing at her throat. Adrian looked like he'd already won, chest puffed, smile wide, hand possessive on Celeste's waist. Adrian Kane and his wife, a photographer, called out. "Happy to be here," Celeste purred, not correcting him. She posed expertly, angling toward cameras. James Rothstein, watching from near the bar, frowned. "That's not Sophia." His wife Patricia nodded. "Something's very wrong here." Adrian worked the room like a politician, introducing Celeste to investors and journalists. "My incredible partner," he said repeatedly. "I couldn't have built Nexus without her." Each introduction was a knife in Sophia's legacy. Then, from the side entrance, Sophia appeared. She wore midnight blue, simple, elegant, expensive. Her dark hair was down for once, framing her face. She wore no flashy jewelry, just her wedding ring and diamond studs. She looked exactly like herself, but amplified. The whispers started immediately. "That's Sophia Loren, isn't she Adrian's wife? Wait, who's the woman in red?" "This is awkward." Sophia didn't approach Adrian's table. Instead, she moved through the room with quiet purpose, stopping at strategic points. Her first conversation was with Chen Industries CEO. "David, good to see you." "Sophia." David Chen looked relieved. "I've been trying to reach you about the CipherCore merger." Adrian's presentation had some technical gaps. "The encryption timing protocols," Sophia said. "I flagged that issue in my original analysis. The integration window is too aggressive." "Exactly." David's eyes sharpened. "Your original analysis?" "Every word. I can send you the time-stamped documents if you'd like verification." "Please do." She continued her circuit. James Rothstein pulled her aside near the auction display. "Sophia, what's going on? Who's that woman with Adrian?" "Celeste Winters. She's been very involved in company operations lately." He introduced her as his wife. "Did he?" Sophia's expression remained serene. "How strange. I wasn't aware our divorce had been finalized." James's jaw dropped. Across the room, Adrian watched Sophia's movements with growing unease. She was supposed to be home, invisible, erased. Her presence here was wrong, a variable he hadn't accounted for. "Who's that?" Celeste asked, noticing where he was looking. "No one important," Adrian said tightly. But his hand had started to shake. Margaret Chen appeared beside Sophia, impeccable in Chanel. "Ready?" "Almost." Sophia made one more stop, at a table where 3 tech journalists Saturday. "Sophia Loren," one said, standing. "We've been trying to interview you for years." "I prefer working behind the scenes," Sophia said. "But tonight feels like the right time to clarify some things about Nexus Solutions' actual development history." The journalist's eyes lit up like Christmas morning. On stage, the gala host approached the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, before our main auction, we have a special keynote presentation. Please welcome tech visionary and Nexus Solutions co-founder, Sophia Loren. The room went silent. Co-founder, Adrian's face drained of color. Celeste grabbed his arm. Co-founder? You said she was just your wife. You said she didn't do anything important. Sophia walked to the stage, accepting the microphone with steady hands. Behind her, a massive screen flickered to life, the title slide appeared, Innovation's True Cost, a case study in attribution, ethics, and fraud. Adrian stood, his chair scraping loudly. This is inappropriate, please sit down, Mr. Kane, Margaret Chen's voice carried from her table. Let's hear what your wife has to say. Sophia looked out at the assembled crowd, every investor, every rival, every journalist who'd written about Adrian's genius without ever mentioning her name. She smiled. Good evening. My name is Sophia Loren, and I'm here to tell you who actually built Nexus Solutions. The ballroom was so quiet that the clink of a dropped fork sounded like a gunshot. Sophia stood in the spotlight, 7 years of silence finally breaking like a dam. In 2017, she began, her voice steady, I developed a quantum encryption algorithm during my MIT doctorate research. My thesis advisor was Dr. Margaret Chen, who saw its commercial potential and introduced me to venture capital. The screen behind her showed her original thesis, time-stamped and authenticated. I partnered with Adrian Kane, my husband, to found Nexus Solutions. I owned 51% equity, majority shareholder. Adrian handled business development. I handled everything else. Slide after slide appeared, incorporation documents showing her ownership, patents filed under her name, early pitch decks in her handwriting. Adrian was on his feet now. This is defamation. Security. Sit down. Margaret Chen's voice cracked like a whip. Or I'll personally ensure every dollar of venture capital dries up before you reach the door. Adrian sat, his face purple with rage. Celeste looked between him and Sophia, realization dawning. Over 7 years, Sophia continued, I developed every major innovation credited to Nexus. The neural network predictive models. The blockchain security integration. The quantum encryption that won us the defense contract. She clicked to a new slide, side-by-side comparisons of her original strategy documents and Adrian's presentations. The dates were damning. Her work always came first, sometimes by months. I also discovered systematic financial fraud. My husband used my personal trust fund, approximately $2.3 million, to finance a shell company called Winters Consulting. That company has 1 employee. She looked directly at Celeste, who'd gone white as marble. Celeste Winters, who is wearing my grandmother's ruby necklace. The one that was stolen from our home safe 3 weeks ago. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Celeste's hand flew to her throat. I have security footage of the theft, which I've already provided to SFPD. There's an officer waiting outside to take Ms. Winters into custody after this presentation. Celeste stood abruptly, trying to run, but hotel security blocked the exits. She collapsed back into her chair, crying. Sophia clicked to financial records. The CipherCore merger Adrian presented to the board? My strategy, developed over 6 months. I have time-stamped documents, email chains, and server logs proving I authored every aspect of it. She paused, letting it sink in. My husband has been committing fraud on multiple levels, intellectual property theft, embezzlement, and identity fraud. Tonight, he introduced his mistress as his wife to investors and press. That's not just betrayal. That's deliberate deception to influence business dealings. James Rothstein stood. Sophia, as board member, I formally request emergency shareholders meeting to address these allegations. Second, David Chen called out. Third, another voice added. Adrian was shaking now, his carefully constructed world crumbling in real time. Sophia, please, we can discuss this privately. We're past private discussions, Adrian. Her voice wasn't angry. It was final. You wanted visibility. You wanted credit. You wanted everyone to know you built an empire. Congratulations. Now everyone knows the truth, you built nothing. You just stole very well. She clicked to her final slide, a corporate restructuring proposal. Effective immediately, I'm exercising my rights as majority shareholder. Adrian Kane is removed as CEO. I'm assuming that position publicly. The board will vote to ratify this tomorrow at 9 a.m. You can't, Adrian started. I can. Read the original incorporation documents. 51% ownership, with sole authority to remove executive officers for cause. Fraud constitutes cause. Margaret Chen stood, starting a slow clap. Others joined until the applause was thunderous. Sophia descended from the stage as security approached Celeste. Ms. Winters, you need to come with us. Adrian. Celeste screamed. Adrian, help me. But Adrian couldn't help anyone. Investors were already leaving his table. Journalists were frantically typing. His phone exploded with notifications, board members, lawyers, creditors all demanding answers. Sophia walked past him without a glance. Sophia, wait. He grabbed her arm. She looked at his hand, then at his face. Let go. 7 years. You're throwing away 7 years. No, Adrian. You did that. I'm just finally acknowledging it. She pulled free and walked away, to Margaret, to the journalists, to the future she'd earned. Behind her, Adrian Kane stood alone in the wreckage of his stolen empire, finally invisible. 6 months after the gala, Nexus Solutions occupied a new building in Soma with Sophia Loren, CEO, on the door. The company had weathered the scandal by doubling down on transparency. Sophia led a complete restructuring, ethical leadership, proper attribution, and innovation driven by collaboration rather than theft. Revenue increased 40%. Employee satisfaction soared. Sophia's office had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the bay. She stood there now, reviewing patent applications, when her assistant buzzed. Dr. Loren, Daniel Reed is here for lunch. Sophia smiled. Send him in. Daniel entered carrying Thai takeout, his tie slightly crooked, hair perpetually messy. He was a senior software engineer she'd hired 4 months ago, brilliant, kind, and completely unimpressed by wealth or status. Your office is annoyingly nice, he said, setting down food. Makes my cubicle look sad. You could have an office. I've offered 3 times. And lose my position near the snack bar? Never. He kissed her cheek, familiar and comfortable. How's the patent review? Promising. The new encryption variant could revolutionize secure communications. See, when you talk like that, I want to marry you. Sophia laughed. They'd been dating for 2 months, slow, genuine, built on actual partnership. He'd known her as the quiet genius before the world did. That mattered. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost ignored it, then recognized the area code. Cleveland. Adrian's hometown. Hello? Sophia. It's Adrian. She hadn't spoken to him since the gala. He'd been fired, disbarred from tech leadership roles, and forced to liquidate assets to cover legal fees. Last she'd heard, he was working retail in Ohio. What do you want, Adrian? Just to say I'm sorry. Really sorry. Not because I lost everything, but because I finally understand what I had. His voice was rough, humble in a way she'd never heard. You were brilliant, kind, patient. You loved me when I was nobody. And I repaid that by trying to erase you. Sophia was quiet for a moment. Daniel watched her, concerned, but didn't interrupt. "I accept your apology," she said finally. "Just like that? Forgiveness isn't for you, Adrian. It's for me. I'm not carrying your choices anymore. Are you happy?" She looked at Daniel, at her office, at the company she'd built twice, once in shadows, once in light. "Yes. I really am." "Good. That's good. I should let you go. Adrian? I hope you find peace. Real peace, not the kind that comes from stealing someone else's light." After she hung up, Daniel handed her pad thai. "Ex-husband? Former shadow I used to live in. Poetic." He grinned. "Want to talk about it?" "Not particularly. Want to help me debug the new security protocol?" "Now you're talking my language." They worked side by side, equals in every way, until Sophia's phone buzzed with a news alert: Celeste Winter sentenced to 18 months for embezzlement and theft. Justice, quiet and inevitable. That weekend, Margaret Chen hosted a small dinner party at her Pacific Heights mansion. Sophia arrived with Daniel, who charmed everyone by accidentally calling a billionaire investor "dude." "I like him," Margaret whispered to Sophia. "He sees you, not your net worth. That's why I like him too." "And Adrian?" "Living in Ohio. Working retail. Apologized today." Margaret raised an eyebrow. "Did you accept?" "Yes." "Then moved on." "Good girl." Margaret squeezed her hand. "You know, I knew from the moment I met you at Stanford that you'd change the tech world. I just didn't know you'd have to burn it down first to do it. Creative destruction. The best kind." As the evening wound down, Sophia stood on Margaret's balcony, overlooking the city lights. Daniel joined her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "Penny for your thoughts? I was just thinking about 7 years ago. How small I made myself. How I thought love meant disappearing. And now? Now I know love means being seen. Really seen. For everything you are." He turned her to face him. "I see you, Sophia Loren. Quantum encryption genius. Terrible at karaoke. Makes the best coffee in the office. Occasionally intimidating in board meetings. Perfect exactly as you are." She kissed him, and it felt like coming home, not to a place, but to herself. 3 months later, Nexus Solutions went public. Sophia rang the opening bell at the stock exchange, Margaret beside her, Daniel in the crowd. The ticker symbol, QLNT. Quantum Loren. Her name, finally visible, exactly where it belonged. That night, in her apartment, downsized from the penthouse, more her style, Sophia sat with her laptop. An email from MIT. "Dr. Loren, we'd like to offer you a position as visiting professor of advanced computer science. We want our students to learn from the woman who actually built Nexus Solutions. Will you consider?" She smiled and began typing her acceptance. Outside, San Francisco sparkled. Inside, Sophia Loren, once erased, once invisible, once silenced, finally took up all the space she deserved. And it felt like breathing for the first time. The end.